Hi, good evening. This is Tom DeVinco, Donna Giacaruso, and Susan Walsky. We're here this evening to give you updates as to what we believe is misinformation that's been relayed in different types of media. We feel it's rather important, with only 4 days left to the election, that you have an opportunity to rather try to read this. We are going to explain what we believe are our top 3 issues, and most of the people that have asked questions have come back with either budgetary or zoning and the consolidation versus shared services. So we will run through this for you, and again at the end we'll give you our phone numbers. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Again, with only 4 days left, it's really crucial that you understand the truth of what we have. Thank you. Go ahead, Donna, you can start us off with the...
Well, 61 East Main Street seems to be a very hot topic. That is the one thing that brought us together and why we are here sitting with you this evening and running for an election. So back in June of 22, there was a huge public hearing at Village Hall. There was between 100 and 200 residents that came out, standing room only, and we were informed of a proposal for 2 apartment buildings in an OR zone where it is currently a historical looking home that would be demoed. So there was public outrage at that meeting. We got together and gathered some information, and my big question was, where did this begin? We're sitting here, no one seemed aware of this prior to. When did it start? How did it start? And where are those meetings and minutes? So after researching it, we found out that back in 2018, the first application for the site plan on 61 East Main Street was submitted to our village, December 28th of 2018. During that time, we had no planning board in place. So there were no minutes to be found, there were no videos. We foiled the information, because what took place between 2018, when the application was submitted, and that first public hearing in 2022, we never got the foiled information. I received a phone call from our building inspector who informed me I will not be receiving my FOIL request because those meetings didn't exist. So how many were there? Who were they with? We learned that our current mayor met with the applicant sometime in 2018. They discussed a site plan. That site plan did not seem to conform to what our current governance had seen for our village. Again, no planning board in place. It was a private meeting, not on record. The mayor had requested or suggested that the applicant resubmit a new site plan, changing the layout of the 2 buildings and no longer having office space on the bottom, making it all residential. So now we are dealing with 28 apartments, 56 parking spots. Also, with that request, it's against our own zoning codes. So those 56 parking spots are now sandwiched in between 2 buildings, not behind the building like our code requires. Okay, so now fast forward. We started a group, we hired and retained an attorney. He represented us at a recent meeting, and the board tried to shut him down. He submitted a letter stating that the process was fatally flawed because there are no records of any meetings, no YouTube videos, nothing. So the request was that the application needs to be nullified and void, and the applicant should resubmit. We are currently under a building moratorium, and that the board gets 0 credit for. That was the works of our group and the residents petitioning with 700 signatures, and that's why we got the building moratorium that had been requested for years prior with no success. Why is this a concern? First of all, we can't find one resident that would be in favor of this. It's an outrageous proposal for this village. It's not a multi-dwelling zone in that area. It's an office residential zone. So, was it okay that our mayor met with an applicant to see if a site plan is acceptable for our village, not illegal. Was it okay for that mayor to have the applicant revise the site plan, resubmit it, and this go on for years without any records of any meetings, and now the applicant had already put tens, if not hundreds of $1,000s into this proposal? It's giving a verbal green light, and that is why we are in this situation that we're in. If we end up in governance, this would not be acceptable under our administration in any way. There are a few things that we have in mind to remedy these types of situations. Tom, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think just using the word transparency. For an example, if an applicant came in with a proposal and they wanted to come in front of the board, that would be fine. At that point, I would be inviting both the planning board and the ZBA to any presentation that they would like to make. And we would also, where that project would be located, I would say within 500 feet to 1,000 feet, we would personally write letters to those residents so that they're aware of this project, besides using social medias and other medias to get the information out there. So we want that transparency. We want everybody to be involved from the beginning, not the way it's currently running, where a process will happen and then you get 2 years, 3 years down the road when the project is just about 99% complete, and then you have a public hearing and then you have the outcry. And that's obviously what we don't want to happen. We want everybody involved from the beginning right to the end, so everyone is informed.
So I think another thing that's important is, and the technology is there, it's really so simple, is live stream the meetings on our website.
Right.
Get a chat bot going so the public can get in there while the meeting is starting and send messages.
Right.
Would we be able to answer all of them, or would the boards be able to? Probably not, but at least there's a written record of the public input.
Right.
And they're doing it from the comfort of their home.
Right.
We're not transcribing from YouTube videos to post meetings,
Right.
3 and 4 years
Well,
later.
and that brings another point that I think the village needs is a professional stenographer. Not depending on somebody's ears who are not trained to listen, who may have a vested interest. The stenography firms are so cheap, it's transcribed, every single word. So it really is much more clarity for the public to understand what's gone on during a meeting.
Yeah, it's a great idea. And the other part of, once those minutes are documented, that we also have the ability to review and approve those minutes, so that there is those processes again, that the meeting minutes have been produced and they're filed and they're in place.
And they're on the website. Anybody
Right.
can check it out.
Right, and that would be for every board that would meet. We again had discussions about starting up getting the architectural review board, a separate board doing it, not the village board, right? And
As well as an
ethics
ethics
board and everything else down the road. All those minutes would be accumulated and put onto the website. So I think, is there anything else on that particular subject?
On that, I think we pretty much cleared it up. I would like to go on to something else though now.
Sure.
There seems to be a bit of misunderstanding between consolidation and shared services. The word consolidation, quite honestly, it scares even me, because the first thing it conjures up is massive layoffs, cuts in services, austerity, and giving away or giving up something that you've come used to.
Right.
Shared services is much, much different than that. When you first of all, New York State has got a lot of incentives for it. Last year, New York State, I believe it was somewhere in the tune of $92 million was given out to municipalities for coming up with planned shared services.
Right.
There's a small senior bus that comes back and forth to the town, which we do share services with for the senior center.
Right.
But there's no shopping services for them. If they want to go to Stop and Shop, or they want to go up to Vale's Gate and they want to go to ShopRite, and it's probably not economical to get a bus all on our own. It's expensive, you have the driver, you have the insurance, and you have the vehicle. But maybe somebody like the town of Cornwall could use the same thing. So we can create a plan of shared services for that senior dial-a-bus, and we're only paying half, the other municipalities paying the other half. We're providing a higher and better service to the residents, especially to our seniors, than we had before. It's really as simple as that. It takes an investigative time to find out what our neighbors need and how can we work together. Sometimes it'll work out, sometimes it won't, but you just don't know until you take the time to research it.
Other parts of shared services would be highway department in the town to the DPW. I think there's lots of different avenues that can be investigated, and again, it's all about, you know, saving taxpayers' dollars, and again, still doing the job the right way.
And even in some cases, improving the quality of life for the residents.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Anything else on that, guys?
Not on that. I think the third topic is a very heated subject right now.
Yes.
We recently had a budget hearing, and Tom, why don't you?
Yeah, so just touching on budget again, because this has been another hot topic on social, and as we walk and go around the neighborhoods, everybody was concerned pretty much, again, these three priority items. So as far as the budget was concerned, back in early February, we received a preliminary budget. They had a hearing as such, but to our disappointment, the budget was really inadequate and no detail to it. So what do I mean by that? It was basically a column of saying what your budget was going to be for the year. It showed a line of what the increase or decrease was going to be on that particular line. And the third column was about the percentage being up or down. That column wasn't working at all because there were instances where the formula between the cells were not calculating the percentage correctly. So from there, we actually ended up waiting until the end of February with no budget being presented on lines for anyone's review. The night of the public hearing happened to be basically the last day that they could have a public hearing because the budget needed to be adopted.
The next day.
The next day, right, because that was the 20th.
With tax bills to be
with tax bill to be
out.
coming out on the heels of all of that. So we're checking online, you know, the day before, the day of, hours before, and the meeting is at 7 o'clock. We pull in and there's no budget. At the time of the meeting starting, the budget is presented and basically handed out to everybody in a different format that we received from the preliminary budget. And the other major thing with this particular, with their budgets as of late, is that there's no history. You don't see what's going to be, you know, the current budget to what's proposed for this year, and there's no history going backwards 1, 2, or 3 years with the expenses to know where you actually stand. They adopted that budget. If this administration gets in, one of the things we're going to do from a budgetary standpoint is have a forensic audit done. Our concern is we really don't know where we stand on a revenue basis or an expense basis, and we need to get our feet on the ground. The other things that weren't there was a water fund and the sewer fund. Everybody's having real problems with the billing system. That's going to be one of our top issues as well to address.
If I can just add one piece, my big concern that night, and I had discussed it, was that if you go onto the state comptroller's website, you will find that the current village board has not submitted their financials to the state in at least 5 years. That's unheard of. Why is that important? They give us a rating, and that rating helps us in terms of monies that we might get from bonds, from loans. And what happens here is it also determines if we are in fiscal distress. They look to help us. Because we have no rating, we have no determination. There is zero determination. So from the county, we're hearing that we are in fiscal distress, but the state cannot clarify that for us because the board has not submitted their financials in over 5 years.
Yeah, to kind of look at it the same way with a little twist to it. It's kind of like your credit report. So if you haven't submitted your paperwork, they have no idea how to rate you. So if your bond rating is frozen and they basically withdraw it, there's questions now, you know, could we borrow any money? Can we get a ban? Can we get a bond? Because if it's frozen, they don't know if you're in great shape, in the middle, or in the poorest shape possible. So with not having it, we're basically stalled, is the way I would look at it. And we need to figure this out and get that paperwork done and get it submitted so it's in place.
There was a treasurer that was hired back in October.
Right.
And now it's our understanding that the reason why is to now go back and go through all of those years and submit to the state. But why now?
Well, I mean, and there's other things too. Again, I'm all about making it easier for the people. So when you use software like Edmunds, your tax bills are published online. You can go in there and you can research. And there is absolutely no reason in this day and age that our residents should not be able to pay their bills online. They should be able to pay their tax bill online, and they should be able to pay their water and sewer online.
Right.
Now, there's a record of the transaction. You're not depending on somebody to stamp a check to make sure it was received.
Right.
You have a digital footprint for it. Is that going to work for everybody? No. But let's try and make it work for the most.
Yeah. Should be modernized, absolutely.
Budgets, I know for me, are always based on what did I budget last year? What did I actually spend last year? What did I actually take in? And then I'm going to create that budget. Without the residents knowing how much money came in and how much was spent, how can any resident speak intelligently on the budget that's put before them?
And that just rolls us back to having an audit so we know where we are.
Yeah.
And you touched on the treasurer position. There were no treasurers appointed in the last 5 years. So if there isn't anything else, I think we would want to just basically thank you very much for listening to us. Hopefully these top 3 items were on the top of the list. It appeared to be for everybody. Hopefully we've answered your questions, and we kind of went a little bit around so you have a good feeling for it. And again, if you have any questions, we really urge you to call us. There's a lot of bad information, but the best way to know what's going on is ask us directly. So again, Tom's cell number is 845-849-4523.
And Donna's is 845-325-7707.
And Susan is 914-261-7169.
Okay.
And please get out to vote, please.
Good governance across the line.
Great. Thank you very much.